Welcome to Wine Soundtrack Australia. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world.
In 30 ounces, discover their stories, personalities and passions.
Hello, listeners and friends of your Wine Soundtrack. I am here with someone very important in the Barossa Valley. Howard Duncan, how are you today?
I'm very well. I'm humbled. Thank you very much for classifying me as very, very important. I'm impressed by that.
So, Howard, tell me a little bit about you. Now listeners want to know if you have any memory relevant of wine in your life, in your story.
It's a good question to start with because I came into wine from a very different path from a lot of people because I didn't come from a wine making or wine drinking background. I mean, my family, my parents were wine drinkers, but they drank cask wine, and it's a pretty simple approach to it all. And I really didn't drink wine until I just took up a bar job in Melbourne back in the late 80s, and they just happened to have a wine program, and so I started, with tasting a wine and knowing nothing about it, and then tasting a second one and connecting the dots that the two were different, and then being intrigued about why the two were different and trying a third one. And so, it was kind of a slippery slope for me into wine that started back in about 1987. But really before that, wine just wasn't on the radar. I never had any dreams about being in wine, didn't know anything about it. So it just got me.
And now you're passionate, right?
Yeah, I am. It's funny how things just find you in life. Because from going from, if you'd interviewed me at 18 and said, what's your, aspirations in life, wine just wouldn't have been mentioned. And here I am at 55 this year, so I've been at it for, that's a long time, isn't it? That's a really long time. That's about 37 years. And the thing that I think I've determined over my journey in wine is what I do love about it is I love the humanity of wine, the people that are involved. And I love the connection to landscapes and communities. I think I grew up in a big city, but I think I was probably a country boy at heart. I've always wanted to live in small villages, and I love nothing more than going out and kicking the dirt and walking around with growers and pretending I know something. So but it's the humanity that I love about wine and connecting with people. Yeah.
The thing I really like about wine industry is because everyone is so passionate about it. It seems like everyone is working in the wine industry is actually because they love. So something is actually just got me. So with regards to consumer education to drink, so what's the opinion about the parents to let the child have a small taste of wine?
Look, it's a lovely tradition that's obviously come out of, the wine producing regions of the world. And I see, although I was always very strict with my daughters, you're not drinking until you turn 18. I don't see any harm in introducing wine to the table in that fashion. And, it is just part of the charm of wine, and it really just shows you, it's such a civilised drink, and it should be on, I've always had a view it should just be on every table. So, I don't have a problem with parents that are splashing a little bit of wine into a lot of water and gradually changing the ratios over time. Yeah, I think, I take great pride in the fact that both my daughters, who are sort of in their early 20s now, are both wine drinkers.
Both wine drinkers.
And that, we can go out to dinner at any type of restaurant and they enjoy having a glass of wine. And I think there's something innately right about that. It seems right rather than them drinking a bourbon and Coke or something like that, or a cocktail.
So do you remember how old you were the first time you drink wine?
I can remember the exact time. And I was graduate. I'd finished high school. I'd gone with a group of friends to just spend a couple of days away just getting over the whole experience of high school and final exams. And we stayed in a little country town together, and we went to the local pub, and we got talking to this guy and his wife there, and anyhow, he bought us a bottle of wine, and there was three of us there. I think none of us knew what to do with it. And so he poured this wine, and I can remember what the wine was. It was a Hardy's Ziegersdorf Riesling.
Oh, wow.
So that would have been Barossa Valley floor Riesling from sometime in the late 80s with a cork in it or anything like that. And it was probably had residual sugar of 20 plus grams per litre. And that's my first connection with wine. And it didn't really hit home. It wasn't transformational, but it's quite remarkable that, 35 years later, I can still remember when my first bottle of wine was, and it was that wine, yeah.
It's incredible you really know even the brand, because a lot of people...
I know, I can't remember sometimes what I did this morning, but I can still remember that wine, so yeah.
So you start to talk about Australia. What do you like most about our nation, or generally about Australia wines?
Look, I take it from a slightly different perspective because I'm an immigrant. I came here as a young 3 or 4 year old back in 1970 from the UK, so I have a deep love of this country. And what I love about this country is the freedom and the spirit of journey and exploring. That there's no barriers. We're not constrained by the way things have been done. It's all about, I think, a respect for tradition and a respect for those people who have gone before us, but this real urge to sort of journey forward and have a look around and see what you can do. And you love it in a place like the Barossa Valley because you can really see this sort of impact of generations where every generation has very much respected what's gone before it. Can't believe how lucky they are when they look at what's out there on the vineyard landscape. But they're all totally obsessed with the forward progression of Barossa wine. And so I've only been involved with, I've been involved in some way with Barossa wine for most of my wine career, and I've lived here for 20 years, but even in that short time, I've seen forward progression and forward progression for the better. So I love the liberal approach that we take to wine. It's solely in the pursuit of making a better drink. And that's what I think makes Australia a great wine producing region. And if I bring it back to my own little world here, I think it makes the Barossa the most exciting wine region in the world.
I agree with you because I came from South America to here, it was a long way, and I always have Barossa Valley in my mind. So I have some passion about Barossa as well. But I would like to introduce our listeners and friends about the project you have here in Barossa. So Artisans Wines, there is a nice project to promote small batch winemaking in Barossa, right? Would you like to tell us what it's about?
Yeah, perhaps a little bit of background about the Artisans of Barossa group. It's a collaboration of small winemakers, and it started back around about 2005 when a group of about, at that stage, I think there was about 12 of them that came up with the idea that if they all started working together and with a view that they were going to go to the UK market to promote their wines, that by working together, 12 would make a little bit more noise than one. So they engaged a local PR company, came up with this concept and this name called Artisans of Barossa. And off they went into the UK. And it was very, very well received and very successful for the group. And over the following years, the group changed in makeup and who was involved, and it sort of increased in size a little bit, then it would decrease. And then back in around about 2008, 2009, they started doing pop-up tastings around the Barossa just to make a few connections, get a few people on their mailing list and sell a bit of wine. And that really started the process then which led to 7 of them formalising the group, so forming a company or a partnership and leasing a cellar door, which was just sort of on the eastern flanks of the Barossa Valley. So that's when Artisans of Barossa really took a solid form. And back then in 2011, that was hugely innovative because nobody had ever really put together that number of winemakers in one space. And I think probably rightly, even the winemakers involved and probably a lot of people looking at them thought, there's no way this is going to work. How can 7 winemakers work together on a project like that? And, this over the journey, which is now 10 years, that group has, again, there's been some changes. We've just now expanded to 8. And 4 years ago, kind of reached a real tipping point where the place we were leasing was no longer available for lease. So we had to make a call. Are we going to close down? Are we going to find somebody else to lease? Or are we going to build something? Which is probably the biggest call I think a group of winemakers have ever made, was to make that decision that says we're going to secure our future. This is a long-term project. And so they decided to go and find a bit of land and somehow scrape together some money and build a brand new home for themselves, which is today is 100 days exactly from opening. So It's the end of a long journey and the start of another one. Yeah.
It's so exciting project, but we actually have a very good names here, in this project. Like John Duval is the ex-winemaker in Penfolds. So do you like to just mention all these actually people who's involved in this project, please?
This is probably the toughest part of my job, is to remember all 8 of them, because you usually get to about number 6 and you go, I know there's 2 more, I can't remember who they are. I shouldn't say that. But obviously, John, I don't think anybody would... I don't think, as my kind assistant hands me a cheat sheet, but I don't think anybody would contest that John Duval, and now joined by his son Tim. I suppose they're our international celebrities. John's reputation doesn't need explaining. He's an extraordinarily well-known winemaker, one of Australia's greats. And so John's been there on the journey from day one, as has Greg and Alison Hobbs, probably our smallest artisan. They have a beautiful 100-year-old plus vineyard up in the Barossa ranges in the Flaxmans Valley. And then Jason Schwartz from Schwartz Wine Company is also a founding member, as is Simon Cowm and Corey Ryan from Sons of Eden, and then Pete Shell and his wife Maggie Gelly from Spin Effect. So there are 5 that have been with us on the journey all the way since day one. And then in recent times, we've had John and James Leanett, who are 2 brothers, one farmer, one winemaker, under the banner Leanett Vineyards, who've joined us in the last 18 months. Craig Stansborough, who's probably better known as the long-time chief winemaker at Grant Burge Wines. His private project, in partnership with a good friend of his, Mark Slade, under Purple Hands, have recently joined us. And then our latest recruits are brothers-in-law, Theo Engler and Daniel Hartwig, who are the Chaffee brothers, who have joined us recently. So it's a band of 8. They're their own individuals. They're an incredibly eclectic group. And somehow, under this banner, Artisans of Barossa, and this idea that binds, that we all are sort of, we're like-minded individuals, somehow that all comes together and manages to work.
Yeah. So, question, we actually start to work all together, but it's actually doing so many projects together as well. So, for example, the grenache project, I really love that idea, and I would like to share that with the people listening to us. So, how actually start that project? How the ideas come along?
I think it's just one of those ideas that the great thing you'll find if you come to any of our board meetings that, sometimes the agenda gets lost and we go off on tangential discussions about all sorts of things. And just one day back in, it was late 2016, and somebody just dropped this idea about, what happens if a group of 6 of us got together and we each took 1 row of grenache and, we just made a wine and then we presented them together as 6 wines. And that's an interesting idea. But it was one that stuck and it kept coming on, hitting the agenda. So, back in 2017, they selected a single vineyard and literally went out there and wrote 6 winemakers' names on the end of the strainer post at the end of the vineyard. And they all said, rightio, well, you choose your day when you want to harvest the fruit, harvest 1 tonne of fruit, take it away, do whatever you want with it. There are no rules here, just make a wine you like to drink. And they promptly all forgot about it, and then we had to remind them. So they all rushed in on the same day and harvested the fruit. And we had no real preconception about what the end result would be. We didn't really know if, by winemaking alone, that the impression of the winemaker would be enough to create points of distinction between each of the wines, because we respected that, obviously, terroir of that particular vineyard, we'd certainly see a consistent character through. So we left it, wines were made, put to barrel, and then in August that year, I can remember getting them all together, and they all turn up with their little 200ml tasting bottles or various forms, and they start pouring these wines amongst each other, and it's one of the great moments each year. It's lovely to see them all like that together, because they're there together as winemakers, and they're just simply doing what they love. We've taken all the planning, the corporate stuff, the financial reports out of what comes as part of being in business together, and they're just talking about wine. And you you could see the excitement, you could see the interchange of, try my wine, you got to show that, try that person's wine, it's amazing is what he's done. And over the course of less than half an hour, we realised, my God, we've actually done it. There are 6 very distinct wines here that each show the influence of not only a human being in terms of their hands and their skill, but also of their heart and their head. They're following their own path in wine. This is all about individual expression. I've done it all myself. They were all 6 outstanding wines. And so we launched a market with no idea as to who would want to buy 6 bottles of Grenache by 6 different winemakers from the one vineyard, and it sold out in a month. It was extraordinarily successful, and we've done it every year since. And we changed the winemaking lineup, but we moved to a different vineyard, and every year we sit there and we just go, "This is just fantastic." And from the world of a small winemaker, try to show to our customers, what's life like at the small end. It's such a great way of doing it, because not only does it show a connection to a landscape and a respect for a place, and place is really important in our world, but what it shows, and it's a real light bulb moment for people who taste the wine, because suddenly they get the connection that a human being can have an influence on it, and there's a reason why they're all different. So yeah, it's a project that's very dear to our heart. We love doing it every year. We get a great response from not only just wine drinkers, but also the great wine writers in the world. We always get fantastic scores. It's great. It's a fantastic project.
I think it's amazing, because I was one of them they actually bought in the first month when I saw that the Grenache project, like 6 winemakers making the same grape variety from the same vineyard, just how the winemaking can actually influence the wine is amazing to know. The difference between winemaking and then the final results. I think this is a very great experience and a great knowledge as well to give to the final customers. So have another fun, a more different subject. Just coming back to you. How many glasses or bottles, Howard, is needed to see you very drunk?
This is quite funny. As all I'll know is, as I've got older, it takes less. Look, I must admit, it's all relative, isn't it? Because we live here in the Barossa, and wine's. It's my sister-in-law who lives in Melbourne, and she came over here the first time and said, people who live in the Barossa take to wine like Melbourne people take to coffee. It just seems that everywhere we go, we've always got a wine. So we are used to it. We train hard. So we're peak performance athletes when it comes to drinking wine. So the answer it is probably, in generally speaking, probably more than the average person. But as I said, as I've got older, I've really learnt to respect the dangers of a second bottle. Yeah.
2 bottles is enough?
No, 1 bottle's usually more. 1 bottle's normally enough. And as I said, as I've got older, I've really respected think twice about opening that second bottle. So, yeah.
And what you like to drink? Do you have any favourite grapes or any favourite type of wine? Or
Yeah, good question. I mean, it does change. And it's one of the great things about working, with Artisans is one client I work with. I work with another 5 or 6 smaller winemakers. So I do get to see a lot of different wine styles. I'm always very much open-minded to anything that's put in front of me. When I first started in wine back in the 80s, it was very much, Coonawarra Cabernet. That was my favourite. I worked for Mildara Wines. And then I liked, and then sort of Shiraz came on the scene. And even on the journey on Shiraz, which I'm still deeply connected to, and I love Shiraz. I've just seen Shiraz coming out of Australia and the Barossa just evolve and express itself in so many different ways. I'd say in the last 10 years, my biggest awakening has been, and that was courtesy of working with Kim Teusner for 4 years. When I left the big companies, I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about Grenache and Mataro.
And then now you're expert.
And now I'm an expert. I'm enthusiastic in that I love Grenache. It is, to me, so exciting. And I love Mataro. Mataro is something that really, really intrigues me. So, it's and that's just the part of it. I mean, yeah, I said take a very open-minded things like Cinsault intrigue me. Graciano's, quite engaging. I love blends. That's so yeah. I think it's interesting. Recently, we had some friends come over from Sydney. We had dinner at Fermentation, which is a wonderful local restaurant, and we ordered the first bottle of wine, which was one of the people I work for, John Hughes at Riesling Freak number 3. Friends from Sydney said, "That is amazing. Let's get another bottle." And I said, "That's not the way we do things in the Barossa. You never drink the same bottle of wine twice." So, and then we went on to a David France Semillon, and then we worked into a Marco Cirillo Grenache. And I think even then they could say, "Wow, imagine if we all had our own personal Barossan that could guide us and take us on these journeys in wine." So yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah.
And if you drink too much one night, what did you do for recover? Eat a lot of pizza, water, or drink more alcohol?
There's certainly always, the great truism, just get back on that horse, but respect it a little bit more the next day. To me, it's usually a combination of, coffee. Gotta have something deep fried that's not good for you, and usually an afternoon nap. As I know, over the years, I used to be very good at recoveries and backing up, and now that I'm in my 50s, I'm not so good at all. Yeah.
Are you a big fan of social media? Do you have any platform you like the most?
Yeah. So my kids are listening to this, they'll start laughing. I think for a person of my age, I go all right with social media. I tend to be more Facebook. It makes me laugh, especially certainly living in a small village. Facebook is kind of like the village tom-toms, and we all, you can't put anything up on Facebook without a friend, starting to take you down. So Facebook's a lot of fun. I love the opportunity for expression that Instagram gives people. Yeah. There's a lot of people out there, my wife included, that are exceptionally talented photographers. Yeah. They're amateur photographers, and Facebook gives them this audience that's amazing. And, you see, I know my sister-in-law, who's a few years on from me, and she's just loves photography, is very talented, and she's got a huge amount of followers, and she just loves it. It's great. So I appreciate Instagram. I've got no idea about Snapchat. I don't get Twitter.
TikTok,
no ideas. No. Hey, from when I was a TikTok in my world is a biscuit with the shape of a clock on the front of it. That's a TikTok. I don't understand what the video thing is.
The nicest film dedicated to wine. What do you actually recommend us to watch?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, Sideways made us all laugh. Was it Sideways? What was the one with the American guys with the Merlot line? Sideways. Something like that, Sideways. That was really good. Red Obsession was really good. And only 2 weeks ago, I did a tasting with Peter Cheng, who was in Red Obsession. He's become very famous as a result of he's famous for a lot of things. That he's the world's largest producer of sex toys, and he was in Red Obsession, has an amazing wine cellar and a great palate. So, yeah, Red Obsession I really, really like. Generally, I think cinema and film are not that kind of wine, and television's really bad for wine. Nobody's really managed to make wine interesting on TV.
That's a little bit the problem.
Wine. That's what master wine. That's what we need.
Yeah. So when you're very little, Howard, what did you want to be when you grow up?
Well, usually if you're growing up in Australia, the first thing you probably want to be is the captain of the Australian cricket team. But worked out pretty early on that it probably wasn't going to happen. I was enthusiastic cricketer, but not very good at it. What was my next dream? I think my earliest career dream was probably I wanted to be a journalist. Yeah, that was the first thing that sort of emerged around when I was 14 or 15. I really enjoyed English and English literature at school a lot, and I wanted to be a journalist. So, and it took me about 39 years to get there, but I do write articles for WBM now, which is nice, and that's my outlet for my so I can almost say I got there. My wife says I'm just contributing articles. I'm not really doing it.
What did you study?
I could ask the same question of my 20-year-old daughter, and people say, what's she studying? And I said, not much. And I'd probably say I was a reasonably failed student at university. I tried arts, I tried business. I just was too impatient, I think. But I still have a great love of literature and the arts, and a spreadsheet is my best friend. I love accounting, economics, and literature. How's that? Yeah. One of these days I'll be one of those annoying mature age students that, sits in the back of the room, does all the notes, hands everything on time and gets, high distinctions for everything one day.
And what you do today in Barossa, what is your main job?
I made the brave decision to set up my own business a couple of years ago, and the Artisans were really supportive of that, which is great. So Artisans is my major client, and major project to get this new venue built. But I also work for a range of other great people, the Leanett brothers. I work closely with them. I work with John Hughes at Riesling Freak. I'm also working closely with the owners and team at Grenache Creek Wines, which for me is really exciting, because I remember going to Grenache Creek when I first came to the Barossa in 1990, and there's this tiny little place with this amazing reputation, so it's great to be involved back there. A great team. Who else? I love doing a bit of work with Kim Toysner, a bit of writing, and there's a few other clients out there. So I got to start saying no, but if they're good people and they're good projects, it's really hard to say no.
Yeah. Busy man, goodness. Have you ever had someone read you tarot cards?
No, that's
To see what is your future, what's your next job?
Probably don't want to know. No, I'm quite cynical when it comes to that sort of stuff. I mean, I'd be amazed at what my future. I'd probably be horrified. I don't know. I don't know what my future is. I know I've got. I'd love to. I'm not doing anything but wine. That's it. I'm staying in wine. I'm not going to go anywhere else.
Which sport do you follow? Do you like anything in particular, like football or cricket?
Good question. I think, just sort of pretty open-minded to, I appreciate, I appreciate athletic endeavour. I appreciate skill. I'm one of those annoying people that go and watch an AFL game of football and applaud both teams. I probably, the one thing that I'm really a sporting tragic is I've always been a cricket tragic. I will sit and watch any game of cricket anywhere in the world, and I'm just totally enthralled by it. So cricket is a great love.
Yeah. And do you have any favourite actor or actress?
Oh, that's getting tough now, isn't it? I'm trying to think. I mean, I think of some of the classics, like Christopher Walken was always a fascinating actor. I'm trying to think. I mean, the Coen brothers, from a director's perspective, always do amazing things that makes my mind think. I am an enthusiast. I love the theatre,
Cool.
and I love live theatre. I'm very much enjoying. We've got a season's subscription to the South Australian Theatre Company this year, so I'm really enjoying just wandering along to local live theatre. So, I'm not quite celebrity struck. No, bit of a fail in that department. So. Yeah.
Are you ready for the most famous game of wine soundtrack?
Most famous. I haven't heard of it, so you might have got a bit more work to do to make it famous. But anyhow, hit me up with the most famous game.
So I will tell you that some famous people in the world, not necessarily in the wine industry, but would be people around the world doing different things. And I just want to know your opinion, which grape variety you really think matching with them, and then why.
Yeah, okay. Hit me up. Go easy on the celebrities. Respect my age.
If I tell you Madonna, which wine do you recommend for Madonna?
Oh, you know what I've done? She'd probably, if Madonna was here, she'd probably hit me. But I think, a mature Semillon. How's that?
Oh,
because wow. Madonna is just classic. She's aged incredibly well. She's still hot. Yeah. So 20-year-old Semillon, under screw cap, Madonna.
I think your answer was the best. The best. It was so good with this game. Goodness, Madonna aging so well. She's incredible. Yeah, she's such a good look.
No, she's amazing. I said she's hot. She's 65 and she's hot.
And if it's something completely different, Bob Marley.
Bob Marley. Okay, I do remember who Bob Marley is, so I've got to be careful now. Oh, Bob Marley, he's pretty loose. He's a pretty lazy guy. Not lazy, so he's just sort of relaxed. He's quite chilled, easygoing. Look, something that you probably don't take too seriously in wine, like a nice I would say almost like a blend, like a young GSM blend or something like that, you know, something you just kick back and relax and don't take too seriously.
Okay, so
Yeah.
GSM.
GSM, yep, GSM for Bob Marley, yep.
So relaxed wine.
Yeah.
Good. And then Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman. Oh, now let's see. Nicole Kidman. Well, I think she's either, because she's had, well, she did have, maybe she still has, she had that red curly hair thing going there. So a bit sort of the strawberry look or the strawberry blonde look. So I'm thinking it probably either Pinot Noir, so she's quite refined, or
She's quite elegant.
maybe Riesling or something like that. You know, very elegant high country Riesling or something like that. Very refined. She's very angular. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's more serious right here. Yeah, good. And if you have Angelina Jolie is actually a very good look as well. What do you...
She's very good looking as well. She was very good as Lara Croft, wasn't she? I do remember that. We all remember Lara Croft. Never going to forget those shorts. Lara Croft, yeah, look, I think she's probably going to be something more like a Barossa Valley Shiraz, because, she's got great force of character. She's got all the right shapes, and, and like Barossa Shiraz is incredibly attractive as she is.
Yeah, exactly. And with that big lips she has, with the Barossa Shiraz.
Voluptuous like Barossa Shiraz.
And someone like classic, like more the queen.
The queen? Oh, well, and I know she's the queen. She's I don't know, she might ring up and complain. How old's Queenie this year? She's 96, 95, 96. So, she's got to be like something like Seppeltsfield vintage para report, So, from her birth year, which would be something in the 1920s, yeah.
And nicely fortified for her.
Yeah, so she's preserved. She's showing, obviously, her age, but she's seen the journey out. She's still looking fresh, looking great. Yeah, vintage para port from Seppeltsfield. That's where I'd go with the Queen.
Yeah, I think she would love a glass of like Seppeltsfield of fortified wine. Yeah.
Well, she's probably had a go at it once or twice, I would have thought, yeah.
Let's send some wine to the Queen.
Yeah, so I talked to Warren. I've got an idea. We're going to send some to Liz.
And then if we talk about soccer in the world, so we have like this very famous guy called Maradona. So I need to bring some South America to this game, right?
Okay. It's probably got to be Malbec, hasn't he? Yeah. It's Maradona, and the first thing I don't know, is what came first, Maradona or Argentina? What's more famous in the world? Malbec, but I mean, the guy had amazing flair and talent, and he was I think I'd have to just say he's Malbec because it's so immediately associated with Argentina as he is. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun to actually interview you, Howard. It was such an amazing interview. Did you like to just tell all listeners the website Artisan in Barossa, and as well how then people can come here to taste some wines?
Sure.
The address of this place.
Sure. Look, head to www.artisansofbarossa.com. You'll find us on Facebook. You'll find us on Instagram. And then if you're heading to the Barossa, our new place should be open Friday, October 1. So, get ready. I think people will be genuinely amazed, surprised, and really, really impressed with what we've done. It's been 5 years in the thinking and the making. It's very bold, and it's a very new experience, very, very new way of experiencing wine, particularly in the Barossa.
Yeah. So what's the name of this street here where the people can come here to taste some wine?
Yeah, well, so currently you can still, before then, we're in at the back room at Vino Local. We're running our wine room out of here. So we're on Murray Street in Tanunda, right next to the post office. So we're open 7 days a week here from around about sort of 11, 12 o'clock through to 5 o'clock a day. We've always got about 20 wines on tasting from the near on 100 in the group. And, Simon and Matt here, they know their stuff. They're great entertainers, and I'm sure they'll help you choose a couple of great bottles of artisan wine.
Sounds good. Did you enjoy your interview?
I did. That was painless. Apart from the bit about Angelina Jolie, and I'm like, I'm going to cop that there. But otherwise, absolutely painless. And I will take Madonna and 20-year-old Semi on any day. That was a good call. That.
Yeah. I took that as well. Give us a vote from 1 to 10.
How many what?
A vote.
Oh, right, this is a 10 out of 10 experience. Yeah.
No, 11?
We didn't give me 11 as a choice. You said 1 to 10.
Thank you so much, Howard. Have a very great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Priscilla. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack Australia. For details and updates, visit our website, winesoundtrack.com.